The UFC is here in Edmonton for UFC Fight Night this weekend, and Aiemann Zahabi on the card. It's nice to speak with you again in the fighter role. I mean, you've been helping us out a lot with Sportsnet, so it's great to have you here matched up against Pedro Munoz. Big step up in competition for you.
Yeah, it's great to be here, as a fighter now instead of as your teammate, as an analyst. But yeah, I'm really excited about this fight. Pedro brings a big name for me, and I'm hoping to take it from him this Saturday.
You mentioned to me you saw Pedro today. You guys chatted a little bit.
I saw him in the lobby when I was going to go out for breakfast. I gave him a little hug. He told me I look skinny. I told him, you too. He's a nice guy. I'm a nice guy. We know this is just business. So we're in sports, and we're going to go out there and both want to win on Saturday. And I'm hoping to be the better man that night.
It seems like your team is firing on all cylinders right now. Rob Font came and trained with you guys, and he looked fantastic against Kyler Phillips recently. I saw the Laramie brothers were with you guys as well. So tell me about this training camp and how it's different from past ones.
In all my training camps, I always like to bring in people from outside to come in and help, especially specialists and things like that. But even before I brought someone in, after my job at fight, Rob Font joined the team. He started coming to train at TriStar. And he's been a great teammate. It almost feels like he's Canadian. He's such a nice guy. And he was bringing Calvin Cater as well. And then throughout training camp, we had a lot of different guys come in. I brought in Jonathan DeBella for sparring. He's probably one of the best strikers in the world right now. And Ryan Hall, of course. And then TJ Laramie and Tony Laramie both also came for a week, which was great because my opponent Pedro was a bit shorter than me. And I didn't have a lot of shorter people to spar. I had Xavier Aloui, who really stepped up and came every week, except for the times I told him, okay, we have these guests coming in. You could take a break today. But it was nice to have a nice list of guys who were willing to come out and help. And I think that's it's just an advantage to have over a lot of people who can't bring in the people they need.
What do you learn from a guy like Rob Font? And the reason I bring him up is he's just so great at one specific thing in terms of just his boxing is so crisp. He's very long, deceptively long for his frame. And you see in the way he fights, 3 hard rounds. If it's on the feet, he's almost always beating his opponents because he's just so good and so technical. I imagine training with him day in, day out probably helped elevate your game.
Yeah, of course, it helped me tremendously because, iron sharpens iron. And, he's been in the top 10 for a long time. So it was great to see how he trains and everything. And what was interesting is that what makes him great is that he's very consistent. He's one of those guys, when he came to TriStar, he didn't want to make his own schedule. He followed what we did. He came in twice a day, every day. He did the pads we told him to do. He did everything that we suggested. He came with an open mind, is what I mean. He came with an open mind and he embraced our suggestions and what we wanted to add. We didn't add a lot of stuff. We kept it very simple. We mostly kept his game true to itself, and we just sprinkled the little things here and there. But he's a veteran for sure. I love the way he trains. I love his mindset, and I love his work ethic. His work ethic, I think it's inspirational.
And how much does work ethic help people in the gym? When you see other people working that hard, I imagine everybody else probably steps it up as well.
Well, for me, I think the most important thing is work ethic because consistency over time trumps talent. There's a great book. It's called Talent is Overrated. And the guys who stay truly consistent over a long period of time, they'll be good eventually. You'll get good by mistake. You'll get good whether you want to or not because you're staying true to the process. Even at the age of 36, for me, consistency over time trumps everything. And you can tell by Rob Font, he was coming off a 2-fight losing streak and he's 36, 37, just like me. We're the same age. And look what he did to someone who was much younger than him, who was supposed to be touted huge prospect, number 11. And I think they had him at a plus. They had Rob Font as a plus 500 underdog. And you see that it wasn't age that made the difference. It was skill, it was hard work, it was game planning, adapting throughout the fight, making sure to take minimal damage when he was stuck on the bottom and whenever get back up. And I think a lot of it has to do with how good you are and how good you can fight on that night. And just a little tweaks we added to Rob Font's game, I think made all the difference that night.
Talent is overrated. That's an interesting concept. Yeah. So help me unpack that a little bit, because if somebody has God-given talent, we've seen a lot of fighters like this that don't. We've even heard rumors that John Jones, who's considered to be one of the greatest of all time, didn't work quite as hard as other people. So when you say talent is overrated, what about having that kind of talent is overrated, and how do you compensate for that?
It's interesting because talent, when you're so good naturally, let's say you step into something, that's when they say you have talent because you just started and you're showing all these amazing skills and you haven't been really molded by a coach yet, right? But the problem that arises with those type of people is that they end up becoming uncoachable. So when you start off really good really early and things are working for you, you don't want to necessarily listen to a coach. You don't want to take advice super well because it's already working for you. oh no, I can do it like this. You develop this type of ego because it's coming to you naturally. And a lot of those guys, they fizzle out. But if you have talent and you have work ethic and you're coachable, you can go a lot further than a guy who has talent and an ego. So a lot of times when they say talent is overrated, they're talking about the fact that most guys or girls, whoever, when they play a sport and they're really good early before being coached, they have a hard time being coached down the line, and they have a hard time doing all the little extras. Doing the runs you have to do, lifting the weights you have to lift, following the nutrition. Oh no, I'm already jacked. I'm already this. I'm already that. I don't need all that extra work. I've already got it. Whereas the guys who are sometimes less talented, they know they have to make up for the fact that they're not as good naturally. So they work around the clock on all their weaknesses. And once they've covered all their weaknesses, they've become more than talented. They've become actually great masters of the sport.
You, of course, have been coached by Aiemann Zahabi, your brother,
Yep.
for a long time. And when you look at talent, do you believe that you're naturally talented, or do you just believe you've been around so much information and knowledge for so long that you've been able to allow that to kind of permeate your being and help you become what you are?
I think I'm more less talented than I am talented because I don't have a lot of physical attributes. A lot of talent comes from having amazing reaction speed, being extremely strong, having incredible natural conditioning, cardio. I don't have a lot of natural gifts. My body reach and everything is so average. My height is average. My size is average. My strength is average. I don't jump particularly high. I don't run particularly fast. So I just feel like it's 20 years of consistent work over time, being around the right team of guys. Even like my first 10 years, we didn't have a high-level jiu-jitsu coach. My brother was a blue belt in the beginning, and we were getting trained by different people. And 10 years were wasted on doing the same beginner stuff forever. And then now, since we teamed up with like John Danaher and Ryan Hall and some of the other best grapplers in the world, our game has evolved so much faster in a shorter period of time because we've got better training. And I allowed all my skill, my talent, and my success to work over time, not so much physical attributes.
You're 36 years old, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So what do the next 2 or 3 years look like for you in terms of your career? What are you hoping to achieve for as long as your career carries through?
Well, right now I feel like things are about at a tipping point where I'm going to be fighting more often. And I'm really excited about that. And I found my stride. And I'm very happy to fight in 4 months after this one and in 4 months again. So I'm looking to up the amount of fights I have per year for my last few years of training, for my last few years of competing.
All right. And you've also been doing some work with us here at Sportsnet. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
It seems like it comes very naturally to you as well because, again, you've just been around it for so long that it feels like you just have such a knowledge base for this sport as a whole.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of fights, and I talk fighting every day at the gym, and I'm really excited to be working with Sportsnet. Oh my God. Sorry,
we
guys.
got to turn our ringers off. Now, we're even now because our lights shut off earlier.
That's my reminder to pick up the girls from school. Yeah.
Today might not be the day for that.
Yeah, it's not today. It's not today. But no, I'm really excited to be working with Sportsnet as well. And hopefully after this fight, I can book a nice gig with you guys and we can go on a little trip.
I hope for that as well. Well, final question for you. 2 new rule changes are going to be in effect. How much have you been training with that in mind? Does that kind of thing enter into the equation when you're training, when you look at 12-6 elbows now being allowed and the changing of the rule of the grounded opponent?
Yeah, it's good. Like it's actually been harder for my teammates because when I get them in those grounded positions where I can still knee them, they don't realize. And I'm faking the knee. Obviously, I'm not kneeing them in the head. But like for us, I have to tell them, he's allowed to knee. And they don't realize, right? Because I'm not making contact. But I feel like the grounded opponent is going to make a huge difference in terms of stalling. It's going to remove stalling like crazy because guys are going to have to go either to one knee or one elbow or some other body part, maybe their butt or whatever. But it's going to keep the action going in the fight. And the 12-6 elbows, like I don't know how much of a big deal that is. I think the grounded opponent rule it's going to be a bigger game changer than the 12-6. So the 12-6, I didn't see how we can really use it in training because it's hard to hit anybody with an elbow ever in training. But only, I guess, off your back is really going to make a difference or on top. But I don't know. We'll see.
So this is one thing I'm wondering about with the grounded opponent rule. Everybody used to play the hand game, and that's what they're eliminating. If somebody starts to play the game where they just put one knee on the ground, how much worse off are they than if they were to have, be standing kind of on all fours, like you have your 2 hands down or 1 hand down and your legs down? When you put down a knee, how much more of a disadvantage are you in order to, I guess, prevent somebody from hitting you in the head, since that would still be illegal?
I feel like the real disadvantage for putting your knee down is going to be in the grappling, like taking the guy's back, pulling him down and get on top, side control. That's where it's really, because when they're on 4 points, they're not easy to control.
It's like a table.
It's like a table. They're sturdy. When they put that knee down, the access to their back or putting them on their back increases a lot. So the probability of getting closer to a finish, either a sub, like a rear naked choke, or to put the guy on his back and get side control and ground and pound him is going to go up through the roof. So I think that's where we're going to see a lot more action, because when guys put that knee down, they're becoming more vulnerable to a disadvantaged bottom position.
All right, Aiemann. Well, always a pleasure speaking with Aiemann Zahabi. This man's got a great mind for the game, and he will show it in action this Saturday against Pedro Munoz.
Thank you very much.